Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to have you with me today. My name is Alex, and I am uploading to YouTube for the first time. So it's certainly very exciting for me to finally take the leap and reach out to the larger video community. I've obviously been watching YouTube for a long time and focused mostly on travel, which is something that I've always been very interested in. I've been traveling since I was a kid. And I've been traveling on my own for at least the past 10 to 15 years. And so I'm certainly very excited to be with you today and to talk about the topic, which is how to find cheap flights. Now, I know that most people who travel don't enjoy spending a lot of money on travel. Obviously, the less money you spend on travel, the more travel you can do. And I know that I enjoy traveling often, at least 3 or 4 times a year, plus, little domestic and road trips here and there, but like big flight-based international travel, at least 3 to 4 times a year. And, I'm not a millionaire. I don't earn a ridiculous amount of money. I have a family. And so I need to do it on the cheap. And I know that many people are in the same boat as me. And so I'm always getting asked, how do you find such cheap fares? And just to give you some examples, a couple of years ago, I took my family. At the time, I had just one kid. So it was my wife, my kid, and I. He was 2 at the time. And so he needed a seat. And we were able to get the 3 seats round trip to Spain from New York, which is our home base, for a little over $200, which is pretty cheap for transatlantic travel. Since then, I've been able to get some other good deals. And so I went to Colombia recently, actually twice this year, once solo and once with my family, both times under $250 round trip from New York. And I'm, in the process right now of scoping out cheap travel either to South America, Central America, or to Europe. And so just to dive right in, I'm going to share my screen here and show you the platform that I use to find cheap flights. Just bear with me for 1 second while I get this all nice and set up. Great, so here we are. This website is skyscanner.com. I'm sure that many of you have heard of it. You might have even used it. But what makes Skyscanner so great and better than some of the other platforms that I've used in the past, like Expedia, even Priceline, Kayak, etc., is that it has some really advanced search features that make it really effective for bargain hunters. So I'm going to share a few of them with you now and let you know, how I start planning and thinking about travel for myself and my family. So this is the homepage of the US site. If you're based in a different country, you might land on a different homepage, but it's all fairly similar. At the top, you can switch your country. Sometimes, looking in a different country can make fares cheaper, especially if it's the country of origin or the country of destination. So it might be worth looking into there. Currency set to US dollars. Again, you can switch that up for your own benefit. And let's talk about a couple of different types of trips or ideas, brainstorming sessions, etc. So the first thing is, let's say you want to go to a specific destination, but you are flexible as to when you plan to travel. So you start off by choosing your origin. And what makes Skyscanner nice is that you don't have to pick a specific airport. So if you're flexible, you're like me and you live in the tri-state area, you could get to Newark, JFK, or LaGuardia quite easily. You can just put in New York any, and you'll get all the search results with the different airports. You'll get combos taking off from one, landing at the other, and you can decide what works for you. You can also, if you're really adventurous, just put in United States or another country if you're based in another country and search much more broadly. That is probably not for the faint of heart, but some people are very adventurous and might have the desire to see, say, what the cheapest fare is from the US to a particular country, part of the world, city, etc. So I'm going to do New York, my usual. New York, any. And then in this two box, you would obviously put your destination. So let's say Paris is where you want to go. All right, and then you have your date fields. So this is where you will find another really helpful feature of Skyscanner, and that is the ability to search a large number of dates at once and find out where the best deals lie. And if you're like me and you have flexible vacation at work, you might want to just do this search and then decide later when exactly you want to take your vacation. So if you click on the Depart button here, it opens up a calendar. You can obviously search specific dates as we talked about, or you can hit this whole month button. And if you hit the whole month button, you have the option to search for a specific month, or what I like to do, especially in the early stages of brainstorming, the cheapest month. What is the cheapest month in the year to travel from New York to Paris? And you have the same option for the return, specific month, specific date, or cheapest month. So let's do cheapest month, number of travelers. Again, you can put in adults, kids, you put in their age. Keep in mind that if you put them in as age 0 or age 1, Skyscanner will automatically assume that you want them to fly as a lap infant. So if you don't, if you want them to have their own seat, then you have to choose age 2 and above to make sure that they get a seat. Let's just do a very simple one adult search here. Done. Hit search flights. And your first stop here is the Skyscanner calendar. So what we can conclude from this is that September is the cheapest month, at least right now, for the months that Skyscanner is willing to quote us, which is usually a year into the future. It's the cheapest month to fly to Paris. I guess it makes sense after the summer rush, things die down. It's a nice time in Paris. It's not cold yet, but at the same time, it's far less busy. If you have the flexibility to travel in September, I highly recommend it. And this is where the fun begins. So you can start choosing different date combinations to see what the fares will be like. So let's say you know that you're flexible on when you go. You don't mind leaving on a Thursday. You can choose Thursday for your departure, Thursday, September 1st, if you don't mind traveling over the long weekend. And then here are your return options. And you have all the fares listed. So if you came back on Tuesday, quick trip to Paris, 180 bucks. Wednesday is significantly more expensive, which is why if you just went in there and you search the dates without knowing this, you could potentially be paying a ton more money without even realizing that you could save money by switching the day. And every time you change this departure day, the return calendar changes because obviously combinations will differ in price. So leaving on Friday is more expensive, but it adjusts the price of the return. And usually, as you can imagine, Fridays are often the most expensive day to travel on vacation. So let's say you were flexible and you didn't mind leaving on Monday the 5th, 177, you could potentially return on Wednesday the 14th for 176. And these are the prices of each leg. So to get the price of the round trip, you would add these two figures together and you have that total here at the bottom. So if you like it, you think those dates are good, and you're satisfied with the total, you can hit find flights, and that's where Skyscanner will load up all the flight combinations that depart on that particular day and return on the return date that you've selected. And it takes a while because it's a consolidator, and so it searches across the web. So it's searching all of the different online travel agents that are available to get you the best deal possible. Now, I'll just say that these days, with things being a little wonky post-pandemic, with a surge in travel demand and costs of flights having gone up, sometimes the total that you're going to get here is actually different than what you were quoted on the calendar. I didn't find this very common before, but it's actually been pretty common in the last few weeks. I'm hoping it sorts itself out. But it's kind of part of the fun of cheap travel, is that, sometimes you hit it right away and sometimes you don't, and you have to keep looking. So the cheapest to Paris on those dates is actually 502. You can find the cheapest by hitting the cheapest button. Best is the most convenient. So you can easily compare. If you care about convenience, 37 bucks more, you get nonstop as opposed to having a stop on the way back. So that is something to consider. You have here, of course, all of the different options displayed to you. On the left, this is where you can refine your search. So if there's certain airlines you want to exclude, or you only want to search certain airlines, you can do that here. If you want to exclude certain airports, or if you don't want to be flying out of and back into different airports, and those are highlighted here, then you can hit that button and those options go away. But obviously not a terribly satisfactory result. So we can go back to our calendar and try ourselves a different date combination and see if we can actually produce the results we're looking for. Okay, so we're getting closer to the 400. It's quoted. It's a little more sometimes. I don't like when it's a lot more. It's quite disappointing, but if you want to be a discount travel connoisseur, then you have to be a little bit patient and put up with some of these challenges from time to time. All right, so we have our 400. So this is where the fun begins. Play Airlines out of Stewart International, which is a tiny little airport in our area. Maybe not your first choice, but hey, if you want to pay less, sometimes you put up with those particularities. We're going through Reykjavik in Iceland. So, I should have mentioned what I did there. If you like a particular itinerary, you can hit select, and it takes you to this page. You can see the exact connections. If anything requires you to change airports, or there's a long connection or anything that might be undesirable, it will be flagged on this page. Nothing here. In and out of same airport, pretty quick connection. And these are all the places where you can book. So you can book through the airline, but you can also book through these travel agents. And in this case, Just Fly and Expedia are the cheapest. So if you hit select, it will redirect you to those sites, automatically put in the search terms, and pull up this exact flight, which again is why if you're using Skyscanner, you don't have to go and search all of those other sites. All right, so let's go back to our previous window here. And I want to show you a few other features of this website. So we did New York to Paris, cheapest month. Let's say you're more flexible than this. You don't need to go to Paris. You just know you want to go somewhere in the world. You can choose the Everywhere feature. Now, the ultimate travel hack with Skyscanner would be to search everywhere and the cheapest month. And then you're literally going to find the cheapest flight to anywhere in the world out of New York at the cheapest time of year. So cheap, double cheap, cheap, which we like. If you know you want to travel at a particular time and you're flexible about where, you could do a specific month or even a date search. So let's do that. Let's say we don't care where we go, but we know we want to go somewhere warm in October. I love traveling in October and November to somewhere in the Caribbean or South America. Allow me to fantasize about the return of summer and get a little break from the winter blues that we experience in our part of the country. So let's do that. All right, and it opens up this page with a bunch of different options. And these options are divided by country. And for each country, we have the cheapest fare that is available in the month of October 2022. So let's say you really want to go to, I love Colombia. Let's say you want to go to Colombia. When you click the drop down, you'll get a bunch of different cities in Colombia with the cheapest round trip fare available. Cartagena is great. It's over 300. I'm not a fan of paying over 300 for a flight to Central and South America. So let's check out Bogota. Not a beach destination, but certainly an interesting place to go. Somewhere I hope to go soon. And so let's see where we end up. And once again, we are in the calendar matrix. You can also do this as a chart as well, which is convenient for people who are visual because you can see the bars. Obviously, big bars mean more expensive, little bars less expensive. If you're flexible, again, let's say you want to leave Tuesday, the 4th of October, return Tuesday, the 11th. That would be a quick week trip to Colombia. 251. Hit the find flights button. And let's cross our fingers that we get this itinerary available to us. We're getting closer. They always book the more expensive ones first, and then it gradually comes down, which I think builds the excitement, of course. There it is, 251. It's our best and our cheapest, so that's not the worst thing in the world. JFK to Bogota, stopping in Panama City on the way there and back. Now, remember, you want to check everything about these flights. So are the departure and arrival times convenient? I don't love them coming back at 4 a.m., but for a cheap fare, it might be worth doing. If you're satisfied, you hit select, and you get all the deets about the flights, the connections, etc. And if you want to book it for 251, you book it through this travel agent, Ojo. Click, or Ujo. Click on the button and you will be redirected to their website, again, with everything pre-populated for you. And there it is, 250 with their special discount. Looks like there's a meal service, probably not included, but definitely a cheap way to get yourself to Colombia for a holiday. Okay. So a couple of things about Skyscanner to keep in mind. The first is that they are generally quoting you the cheapest fare available on that airline. So for most airlines, that means no free carry-on, no free check bag, no seat selection, sometimes no meal service, etc. If these things matter to you, you're going to want to go and check at the time of booking the ticket to see what you're getting, what you're not getting. And then you might have to do some comparison back and forth. And so, you know, it's not the end of the story, but if you're like me and you're prepared to travel with a backpack on your own or take your family of 3 or 4 with one suitcase, you can usually get some pretty good deals. And you also come to know the different airlines in your area. So I know the deal with Spirit, Southwest, Frontier, which just merged with Spirit. And then, of course, the mainline, United, American Airlines, Delta, etc. And you probably have pretty good knowledge of your own airports as well. That's the first thing with Skyscanner. The second thing is that there are some occasions when they will book you a self-transfer ticket. So I'm going to pull up a good example here. Let's see Poland. There have been some cheap fares to Poland lately. Riding on and building on an announcement that was made recently that there's a new discount carrier going direct from JFK to Oslo, Norway. So a cheap way to get to Europe. So let's say we want these cheap dates to go to Poland. That would be a rather short trip to Poland. Sometimes you have to pick the ones that are unknown and roll the dice. And then only when the search is generated will you get the final cost. But you know, I consider anything under 500 to Poland to be quite reasonable. So 350 would certainly be reasonable. And as I guessed, it is involving a flight aboard North Atlantic, which is that new discount charter. So let's pull up the flight and see what the deal is. So self-transfer. What a self-transfer means is they are recommending you to book separate tickets. So unlike a traditional transfer where your bags are checked all the way through, you're checked in all the way through, you have to check in at your break stop. And this return in particular has 3 stops. So I wouldn't do it. But if you're really a bargain hunter and you care about these things, then it might be worth it to you. It's a long trip as well, over 24 hours. And they have a detailed description of exactly what self-transfer means. If you need visas, you can't do visa-free transit. You have to enter the country, go through immigration, and then do recheck, go through security, etc. So something to keep in mind for self-transfer as well. If you're going to book self-transfer, it's very important that you choose a travel agent that offers transfer protection. Because when you book a flight on a traditional airline, they are going to give you transfer protection automatically. Even if you book on 2 different airlines, but you book it from a particular airline with a code share agreement, what this means is if your first flight is late and you miss your second flight, they will rebook you on the next available at no cost. If you don't have transfer protection, in other words, if you're doing a self-transfer, you're on your own. So you get to Oslo, Norway, let's say, you've missed the connection to Poland, and let's say your connection was with Wizz Air or Ryanair, you go to their desk and they're like, yeah, you missed our flight, you didn't check in. So you lost your money and you have to pay for another flight. So what transfer protection from the travel agent gives you is that kiwi.com would have you covered for booking a new flight. So you have to get your transfer protection from somewhere. If you're not getting it from the airlines, then just make sure you're choosing a travel agent that offers it. Here, there's just one travel agent offering this itinerary, and they offer transfer protection. So it's really a non-issue, but sometimes you'll have, like we saw before, several travel agents offering a particular itinerary, and some may offer transfer protection and some may not. So look for this check mark and the term transfer protection. And that's really it for the basics of Skyscanner. Obviously, there is other functionality that I have not gone into today. This is my first video. And so really my goal was to share information with you, to put my face out there on YouTube, to talk about something that's important to me and some skills or some knowledge that I've built up over the years of traveling. I will make future videos where I talk about some more detailed aspects of Skyscanner. There are things like, searching one-ways, which are sometimes, despite conventional wisdom, cheaper than looking for round trips, looking for multi-city deals as well. And so please comment on this video, like and subscribe this video, get this channel going, and let me know in the comments a few different things. First of all, what would you like to hear in the future? So obviously this channel is not just going to be about Skyscanner. This is a starting point. I like to talk about other aspects of travel. Give me your ideas, your thoughts. If you have any particular tips on finding cheap fares, especially for multiple people, if you have to book 3 or 4 seats like I do, let me know in the comments. Love to hear from you. Great to meet everyone. And I look forward to doing this again soon. Take care.